Hello, everybody. Hello. How we doing tonight? Hello, Sammy, Crenshaw, Lunar, Duality. Hope we're all having a very, very lovely night. I know I am. Hi, Arch. How are you doing? Popping in to say hi before we start chapter, as usual. Oh, my goodness. Oh, it's been a couple days, obviously. Had a great weekend. I had a great weekend. I worked on a lot of stuff. I did a lot of art things. Working more on project things. I'm so excited for Traffic Series. Yes! Oh my gosh. If anything is going to give me a little bit of a pullback out of Homestuck. Now, I won't leave Homestuck. Homestuck is here, and it's going to be here for a while. But I am excited for Life Series. Give me a little life raft in the drowning, in the drowning waters that is that is Homestuck. So I'm excited to probably make some fan art again for it. We'll see. But hi Sino, hi Willow. Currently hunting stuff to put in my drafts Wednesday. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm very excited to see, because there's so much, and the thing is, and here's because this was my thoughts on it, right? There's a lot of like old art that I made that I'm still very, very proud of, that a lot of people who followed, that I did like during like, not during Third Life, because I wasn't there for Third Life, but I did during like Last Life, but people followed me or new fans or whatever came during Double Life, and they don't get to see the old stuff. So it's like, why not, let everybody, or like I wasn't there when Third Life was going, live at least. So I think it'd be cool. I want to be able to see people's Third Life works or whatever. So I think it'll be really cool to see a bunch of throwback art. No, you're good, Ellipti. We're just catching up. We haven't started yet. So, but just to see everybody's old pieces or whatever. And it'll be a great build up to Friday. I'm assuming episodes come out on Friday. If episodes don't come out on Friday, it'll be a little embarrassing. No, it'll be fine. But I think Wednesday will be probably a fun time. I'll probably hit post limit. what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna reblog a bunch of my old stuff on Tumblr, and then I'm gonna just repost things on Twitter, because I'm not gonna be able to dig through and retweet my old art on from Twitter. So I'll probably just repost a lot of old things back on Twitter again. Oh, Blue Bean, thank you for the Prime. Appreciate you. Oh, that alert is like in the top corner. Oh, I can't change it. Hold on. Kind of bothered me for a second. I was like, had no room to breathe. Okay. But yeah, so I think it'll be a ton of fun, and I'm excited for it. I'm excited to see what people post. So, and I'm excited for the new Life series. I think it's gonna be a blast. At least I'm hoping it will be. I wonder what new gimmick they've got up. Have you guys seen I don't want to say anything. Are any of you guys like really like, you don't want any spoilers at all? Because I saw somebody with a skin on, and everybody's like, oh, new person is gonna be joining. So, and I'm kind of excited for it. Even though I don't watch the new person's content very much, but I do know of them. I'm good. Okay, yeah. Flip was wearing a Life Series skin, or at least everybody's speculating it was a new skin. So fun times, fun times. Very exciting. I don't know if there's anybody else other than Flip that I saw, but I know Flip was one of the ones that everybody was like really freaking out over. So that's pretty cool. He's going to cause so many problems on purpose. Yeah, I'm excited. Someone said it might be an SB Hardcore thing, but if it's Life Series thing, I think it's just like, it's convenient that it's like, right around the same time as everybody else, all the other Life Series people are changing their skins. So it would be very weird if it just was like a coincidence. Very convenient. Yes. All right. Let's hop into the chapter recap or just really briefly, I'll discuss what happened last time. Karkat is so sad about his fucking big ol' romantic fuck up. Still doesn't really know how to deal with his feelings for Solux. Still really conflicted about it. No worries, Arch. Feel free to dip. I will talk to you later. Have fun. Karkat's feeling very shitty. And Rose is like, listen, I'll help you. 3 conditions, okay? First, you never speak of mine, Kanaya's first conversation ever again. Second, you take into consideration Dave and Solux's feelings. Third, you help me figure out if Kanaya is big lesbian or not. And Karkat was like, I fucking got you. I got you, soldier. I will help out. I vow it. I agree to your conditions. I am 100% there for it. And Rose is like, cool, we're gonna figure this out. Then that night, Karkat goes to sleep, has a dream about finding Solux in a forest, some random forest. There's like a red car, and then Solux kills him, and he wakes up and he's like, oh fuck, I'm getting tormented in my sleep, oh no. And he's like, I can't go to sleep again, so I'm gonna go to the library. He goes to the library, finds Spade Slick and Miss Paint. Spade Slick is like, ha, you're having romantic issues. I can see it on your face. I'll get you something. I'll help you out. Don't worry. I'm gonna go get something for you. And he goes off, and Karkat's like, I don't fucking know what he's gonna do. But Miss Paint's like, hey, listen, if you're already here, let me get you started on those like advanced magic lessons for helping out over the library. And Karkat's like, cool, awesome, would love that. So he communes with the spirit of the library, and he gets the power to like listen to the books, and he can like feel the books, and he's like, fuck yes, this is so sick. Spades comes back, gives him this book, and he reads it, and it's a book on demon romances. And he gets through the more Allegiance story, and he's like, okay, that was kind of weird. It was like, you know, but like whatever, like I can kind of see it. He gets to the Mate Sprit story, or the red romance story, and he's like, okay, I understand that one. And then he gets to the Kismesis one, and he's like, oh Jesus Christ. And he like finds it really strange and very like off-putting, especially with how like violent they seem to be, and it makes him feel kind of sick to his stomach. And he realizes that like his gut feeling is probably related something to his memories and like all the shame and disgust he's feeling. So he's ashamed and he's guilt-ridden with himself and his feelings, and he kind of resolves that, you know, he could never hurt Solux like how it's portrayed in the book, and like think of it as romantic. And he basically concludes to himself that he probably wouldn't be able to quote unquote hate Solux in the same way that he does, or in the same way that Solux hates him. And also he feels shitty because he was the one that kissed Solux first and egged him on in a way, but still didn't know what he was doing, blah blah blah. He's very sad about it, and which also means unless Solux gets over him and gets over the rejection, he can't date Dave, because he doesn't see dating Solux as a solution anymore, because he doesn't think that he can provide that. So later, Karkat and Rose check their emails, and they've been assigned to this new class, and it is magical history. Karkat is assigned to a morning block, while the rest of them have an afternoon block. Karkat is fucking cranky, as anybody would be for a stupid-ass morning class. Goes to the morning class, meets another student named Eridan Ampora, who recognizes Karkat, or at least calls him by his name, and is like, hey, I also don't remember what species I am. And Karkat's like, whoa, holy fuck, like, bro. And they're kind of like, bro. And Karkat's like, man, I would love to like make friends with people outside our little group, so maybe we can become better acquainted. And then they kind of, you know, go off. They say their byes, whatever. Karkat goes to his lab class, or his alchemy lab, which is Solux and Dave. Solux is very much not looking at him. Dave is feeling a little better. He was sick before, but he's feeling better now. Some shit happens in the room, and suddenly all the oxygen is pulled from it because of some of the shit that goes down in the alchemy. And Karkat realizes he can breathe without oxygen and helps a bunch of the people out of the classroom and like saves a lot of people. And Dave's like, holy shit, dude, like you're a little bit of a hero, haha, like half teasing but half genuine, and treats him to a quote unquote platonic coffee date after the class is dismissed. And they kind of have some back and forth. Dave is kind of sad that it can't be a real date because of his self-imposed rules, and they chill, and then Karkat goes to his job, and then Dave goes to his magical history class afterwards. Karkat talks to Kanaya about his romance struggles, and then ends up learning that Kanaya is into girls, score for Rose. He learns that. Kanaya then brings up Rose, and Karkat starts to mention about like how they met in the party or whatever to Kanaya, because Kanaya knows about it. But suddenly his mouth clamps up and he spits out hellfire and he's not able to finish his sentences. And he's like, oh fuck, Solix must have cursed me or something. And he texts Dave and he's like, hey, did Solix curse me? And Solix teleports over to Karkat and is like, you fucker, first of all, you did that to yourself, haha, look at your goddamn arm, and starts laughing at him. And Solix is like, Karkat's like, I'm not a demon, I can't make deals. And Solix is like, that's not a deal, it's a vow, okay? And then doesn't elaborate anymore. And he's like, maybe stop being a bit of a liar and stop doing that. And also, you said that you would never talk about the conversation ever to anyone, so maybe be better about that. And Solix is kind of pissy with him, but also finds the situation really amusing, but is also still pissed at Karkat, and then is also like, hey, by the way, first of all, fuck you for assuming that I cursed you. Also, now I will curse you. Fuck you. Goodbye. And as he leaves, Karkat goes, and is like, okay, well, fuck. And he goes to like take a little sip of his tea, and then as he sips the tea, it shatters and spills all over the floor, and then the liquid spills out into like a vulgar insult that's like fucking, what was it? Like, useless shit weasel or something. And that's how the chapter ends. So okay, we did that was a bit of a full-on summary, but it's also been a weekend, so it's a nice refresher. So now we're hopping in to chapter 14, Thriller. All right, let me get my mic. Okay, this is gonna make weird sounds for a second. Oh, weird sounds, that's okay. My mic stand is needs so much oil or something, I don't fucking know. Okay, it is time to get started. We are starting chapter 14, Thriller. Let me take a little bit of water. All right. The key to any curse is to work out its specifics. If you're cursed to lose your firstborn child, then just adopt or don't have kids, and the curse does nothing. The details of Solix's curse on you seems to be that anything you pick up to drink falls from your hands and shatters on the floor, spelling out some insult. That happens even when shattering isn't a thing that makes sense for what you're holding. You've had polystyrene and plastic shatter on the floor and accuse you of being a taint licker, a heartless tool, so there you go. If you don't pick it up, then it doesn't happen, which is good news because it means you're not going to die from dehydration, but you are having to stick your head under a lot of taps to drink. Rose was the one who figured out that she could move your drink for you and that straws didn't count. It would feel like winning if Solix didn't seem so pleased about how much this inconveniences you. You assume he's pleased from how often he smirks at your difficulties, but it's not as if he's talking to you right now. Him not talking to you is going to present quite the problem, as you're stuck in the same magical combat group with him and you're graded together. I hope none of you have big plans this weekend, Mindfang says as she skitters across the floor at the front of the class. You wince because that certainly sounds like a big essay coming your way. In your classes this week, I will be teaching you all about the basic survival skills in preparation for your test over the weekend, she goes on. Test? What test? What is the test going to be on? Another student in the class asks, a far dumber one, because Mindfang turns on them with a savage leer. A test of survival, she cackles. After a few moments of dramatic laughter, she stands up properly and flicks her hair over her shoulder with a sigh. You will be exploring an out-of-bounds area and surviving out there for the weekend. What I teach you next will be vital for your very survival. However, after that 1 year, the school has insisted that I am legally obligated to generate you an emergency recall teleportation crystal in case something happens that you can't handle. Naturally, I have determined that needing to use this crystal will result in a failure for this test. Mindfang adds that last part with a sinister smile. That's so cool, Jade whispers, far more excited about this than you are. First of all, your group needs to give samples of blood to generate the crystals, which I'll give you in my next class, Mindfang says, gesturing to her desk, which has a set of trays laid on it. Your class all shuffles down to the desk, but there's such a bottleneck about it that your group just ends up waiting for a bit. I think we're pretty set with this. I lived on an island that was off the grid. Dave and Rose lived in the woods. Solix is an all-powerful demon, and Karkat can do that badass shieldy thing, Jade says enthusiastically. All-powerful. I like you, Harley. Solix flashes a grin at her, clearly pleased by the flattery. Why am I the liability here? June protests. It's okay, babe. I'll hold your hand, Dave offers jokingly. I guess it's not as if the moment we step outside the human-sanctioned zone, there's going to be thousands of supernatural creatures trying to murder us. It's just a weekend, you agree quietly. It's a camping weekend. You'll be alright, right? Your group finally gets in front of the trays set on the table, and you can see the one marked for your group has your names laid out one by one with tiny needles each. Rose steps forward, steps towards it first, and Solix's tails are swishing with agitation as she does so. Rose pricks her finger, and a single drop of blood in the dent of the tray by her needle, and steps back with her finger in her mouth. June goes next, then Jade. When Dave steps forward, Solix looks wildly displeased. All the same, Dave pricks his finger as well, and then looks expectantly at Solix. I don't want to give my blood to her. Besides, I can teleport. I don't need this, Solix says sulkily. Dude, just do it, Dave tells him. When you say it, Solux tries, clearly attempting to get out of it. Solux, go prick your finger on the needle. That's meant for you, Dave clarifies, clearly meaning his demand. Solux grumbles, but does as he's told, though he doesn't look happy with it at all. With him done, it's your turn. You step up to the desk and look down at the tray. Jade's blood is a little greenish in tone, and Solux is, of course, like molten gold. The bare needle next to your name beckons you so carefully, and so you reach out and prick your finger a little. Of course, you've not done it hard enough, so you have to go back a second and actually press instead of wimping out. You drip your blood into the little well, and you think maybe it looks a little brighter red than the others. It's probably just because yours is the newest on there. The class begins in earnest, and Mindfang runs through some basic survival-oriented spells. How to magically dry wood to make it ready to burn in a campfire, protective warts to set up around a camp, how to construct a proper shelter. It's when she's instructing you about alarm systems that there's a problem. Your groups have broken out into areas outside the classroom in a haphazardly paved-over area. Solix is sat slightly above the ground, floating as he holds the end of the strings in place with his tail. On the other end of the string, Dave chalks out a circle, using Solix as the center so it's perfectly round. From Mindfang's instructions, this is a circle that's perfectly fine to go in and out. It doesn't keep anything out. What it does do is flash an alert when anything enters the circle that means harm to anything else in it. The idea being that you'd make a larger version of this around your camp, and it would help keep in watch. As is so often his way, Solix is doing the bare minimum that could be considered participating, and you watch as he even yawns widely. His jaw hinges, and you're treated to an alarming number of sharp teeth that fixate you for reasons you can't quite place. You're still staring when he opens his eyes again from yawning, and you're caught. Solix scowls at your attention on him, and it's that which forces you to look away. Alright, that should be it. I think the rest of us can get in now, June says as she finishes up the last of the spell around the edge. The twins are looking over her shoulder, and both seem to agree. Jade hops in first, followed by the others in turn. You're the last. When you step over the threshold, the air inside flares red and flashes brightly. From across the paved area, Mindfang looks round at the silent alarm. You yelp and jump out again, and the alarm stops. Try again, Rose suggests after a moment. You step forward once more, and the light flares up again. Is it me? You ask, yanking your foot back. Jade frowns and steps out by your side, but hops back in with no problem. When you follow her, the alarm is once again triggered to start flashing and being generally alarming. Could it be a species thing? Everything seems to be, you mutter, and scan the wording for anything specific that could be doing this. Or maybe it's whatever curse that Solux has placed on you. Wait, Dave says slowly and turns his head towards Solux. What? Solux says, sounding a touch offended. Try again, Dave says stiffly, and it's only when he glances over at you that you decide he might have been speaking to you. Once more you step into the circle, but this time nothing happens. By now Mindfang has scuttled over curiously. What changed? It was going off every time, you say dumbfounded. Oh, I see, Rose says, and you know that she's also looking at Solux now, who is looking very annoyed at the scrutiny. The spell was meant to go off if anyone in it meant you harm, or perhaps just wanted you hurt. The specifics aren't entirely clear. What is clear is how when Solux looks up from his seated and slightly levitated position and locks eyes with you, the entire circle flashes with light. If any of you die, the rest of you fail. That still goes if you kill each other, Mindfang informs you all curtly and walks off. Great. I just worry. I don't think he's going to try to murder me in the woods, but that wasn't exactly reassuring, you complain to Rose later as she studies a map. Even if she's not much of a seer anymore, your group let her pick the spot. But despite this, she's not picked anywhere yet. He's not going to murder you, Rose assures you somewhat absently as she scans the map. I had a dream about him stabbing me through the chest, you admit unhappily. That is unlikely to be prophetic. Most likely guilt, Rose says, and she's probably right. You sigh and lean back on your sofa so your head is hanging off the arm and look out to the small kitchen window with its gauzy purple curtains and that Rose chose. Outside, the sky is almost completely dark. At least it won't be a full moon when we're out there. Shit gets weird around then, not just werewolves, but a lot of things, you say. It's a new moon tonight, as far from full as you can get, Rose agrees. You get up and peer out the window. As Rose said, there is no moon visible at all. You can't even see a shadow of it. As you look at the night sky, your memory lights up a little. Did I tell you that in my dream the moon was green? Bright green, you say softly as you remember the way it hung huge and lime-colored in the sky. Something small and plastic hits the ground across the room. You turn and see Rose holding an uncapped Sharpie in her clenched fist as she stares forward at the wall. Something feels wrong. For some reason, you glance back outside at the lack of the moon before, shaking it off and looking back at Rose once more. She sat stiff in her chair, straight-backed and unmoving. Rose? You ask quietly and edge closer. As you move around the sofa, you finally see her face in it, and the sight makes you gasp. From edge to edge, her eyes are white. Her shadow on the wall behind her, cast by the nearby lamp, is wrong and squirming. Rose turns her hand over so the point of the marker is facing down, and tilts her head so she can see the maps. She flicks her other hand over them, tossing map after map on the floor until she finds one, and then scrawls a circle on it so hard that the marker squeals and is finally jammed right in the pen itself. With that done, she drops it and starts to speak in words that the human tongue should not have been able to form. I can't read that, but Rose says stuff, slips from Rose's mouth. With that utterance, her eyes darken back to normal human levels, and you see her pitch forward. You leap for her just in time to stop her slamming her face on the table, and almost immediately Rose shudders in your arms, coming back to herself. Are you okay? Rose, do you remember what happened? I should get you to a doctor, or... You start. I saw, Rose says breathily, and reaches out for the map. An area is crudely circled on it. It's not all that far from where you are now. Out past the boundaries of Salem, where people are permitted, but pretty local, albeit what looks to your eyes is several days of walking to get there. It was a vision, or not a vision as such, the kind where Cthulhu takes me over to leave a message, but before when that happened I'd get a glimpse of his domain, the space between the stars, but it wasn't that. It was somewhere else, Rose says uneasily. Where was it? You ask. Rose shakes her head and squeezes her eyes shut as if trying to remember exactly what she saw. It was dark, closed in. There were others there, things hunting each other down, I think. It was more of a feeling than a sight, Rose answers you. But still, that was the first time anyone has had communication with the god in over 5 years. This is huge, you say in awe. Rose nods, but her mind seems like it's turning over a different problem. I think we should go here, but... I know this is a lot to ask, but I don't want you to tell anyone what just happened. Not a soul. I got the distinct feeling that I shouldn't do that, and I've never been wrong about feelings like that. I need you to promise me, Carcat. Rose insists. You certainly don't want to accidentally vow and land yourself in trouble again, so you're very careful about what you say next. Are you sure? Not even Dave? You ask. I'm sure, not a soul, Rose says very firmly. You don't think this is a good idea, or you don't think this is a good thing to keep from people, but on the other hand, it's been this long without contact. How much could it hurt for people to think it's longer? If Rose keeps having visions after this, you can try to convince her to tell people, but you don't need to do that now. Besides, maybe Rose isn't being entirely upfront about why she wants to keep it a secret. She's gone ages without any vision at all. Maybe she's almost afraid to scare them off. Or if she tells people, she can do it again, and it stops happening and she'll look like a fraud. I won't tell, you say. Not promise. You're very careful about that. Not that you intend on saying one thing and doing another, but you don't want to get stuck in a situation where in an emergency you don't have the option to do something else. You've seen how much deals make Solux's life hard. You've no desire to keep adding to your vows. Wow, Rose breathes again as she looks over the map. That wasn't even an answer to your, not promise, your statement. You guess she's just overwhelmed at having a vision again. You're happy for her. A little selfishly, you start feeling a little less guilty about you doing well in your shared classes about seeing, and when she was having so much trouble with it. Rose ends up spending all sorts of time trying to read into the history of the area, but there doesn't seem to be that much to find. When you have your next class, she tells Mindfang where your group has selected to go. Mindfang just says that on Saturday morning you'll all be teleported there. She also hands out little crystals wrapped up and hung from thin leather necklaces to each of you. The crystals seem to be in a variety of colors, but you get the joy of finding that yours is a gross brownish red. Worse still is that it has some kind of coagulated fluid sloshing around inside of it. Dave's is bright red, Rose's yellow, Jade's is black, June's blue, and Solok's a dark green. It's not even as if it seems to have much to do with the color of your blood. Jade's blood was tinted slightly green, but Solok's is with the green crystal, and Rose is the one with the closest color to Solok's blood. Just a little insight. Those are references. The colors are references to the aspect colors that are assigned with each of them. So, Carcat with blood has this kind of brownish red. Dave has bright red because it's time. Rose is light, so it's yellow. Jade is black, so it's space. June's is blue because it's breath, and Solok's is doom, so it's dark green. Just little thing that I don't think they explain it. So these crystals are reasonably fragile. Crushing one with your hand will activate the spell to bring you back here in an emergency. Although that will fail you on this test, as I mentioned before, Mindfang explains. You put the thing safely in your bag and don't take it out again until you're back in the classroom early on Saturday morning with the rest of your group. Dave and Jade got food supplies for your group. June took over camping supplies. Rose staked out a claim on the navigation, but also magical supplies, and you're left with everything else. All the things people don't think about. You get first aid kits, spare batteries, playing cards for when you're bored, one of those solar charger batteries for your phone. If all goes well, all that will happen is a cautious camping trip over the weekend, and you're going to bet that being that you're a bunch of teenagers, it will become grumpy and unpleasant if no one has any downtime to use their charged phones. Candy Crush may be a dumbass game, but boredom leads to fighting. You download a few books onto your phone from your library's digital archive, just in case there's no signal out there. You also take a book on magical plant identification, a few wilderness survival guides, just in case. Unfortunately, your current curse prohibits you from picking up anything that you might want to drink, but you've worked around that by getting a lot of straws. You even buy one of those water backpack things with a straw so you can drink without having to pick up anything with your hands. You really don't want to go through the weekend with people pouring water into your mouth for you as Solux looks all smug and self-satisfied with his curse. No, you're going to outsmart it, and him. You also pack your tarot cards. The 6 of you are as prepared as you can be when you show up to be teleported. This isn't an official thing like the port. It's more of a temporary thing like Solux did to get you to the lawn house. Your group steps inside the circle and Mindfang closes it up, fills in the details for your destination. You can't help but note that as she works, she doesn't seem to feel the need to ask you for permission, not like Solux had to. With the way her giant spider body is set up, Mindfang has to support herself with her left arm to write the details out with her right, so she's lowered over the edge of the circle when she speaks. She looks up at you with a sly smile as she does, her 8-eye pupiled gaze focused on Rose as she delivers her line. Since you picked a point so close to home, I'll be expecting you to make your way back here if you want to pass, Mindfang says lightly. You don't get a chance to protest before there's a flare of blue, and the world around you is all different. Tall trees reach up around you all, and the forest surrounds you with its stillness. Oh no, if only I could teleport, Solux says deadpanned, and Rose snickers in amusement. She didn't say we had to walk back. Dave agrees. I can't wait to see the look on her face, June snorts. You look over at Jade, who is standing silent and still as she takes in your surroundings. Her skin seems to ripple almost, and once your eyes skip over her, though you know she's still there. She's doing that invisible thing again. If you really focus, you can see her looking about curiously. A few seconds later, she comes back into view. We're not the only ones here, Jade says. That certainly deflates the levity. What do you see? Rose asks seriously. Other Fae, not right here, but around. I don't think they've been here exactly in a while. I'm not really sure. I don't see my own kind much. That's just the feeling I get, Jade explains. We should probably look around and scout a place to make camp for later tonight, June suggests, and the rest of you agree. Any ideas? Dave asks Solux. Solix looks around for a moment and then suddenly rockets up into the air above the tree line and just hangs there, looking around. He looks so carefree up there, and you're struck with the crashing wave of envy so strong it makes your eyes sting and your throat tighten. The demon drifts back down like a falling leaf and lands next to Dave once more. The forest goes on like this for a while, but it's clearer over that way, and there's a lake nearby too, Solix tells you all. My research indicated that the lake was home to some kelpies, so it would likely be wiser to steer clear of that, but a sparser tree line would be more easily defensible. Rose agrees. That seems to be that, and your group starts walking in that direction that Solix had pointed out. He gets that technically Solix could just teleport you all there, but it seemed hard for him, and he needed your permission before. He probably doesn't want that now. Besides, hiking is basically all you have to do for this test, so you may as well do it. The trees aren't massively close where you are now, but you also can't walk more than two together, so it ends up with Jade and Rose walking ahead, Rose with her map and Jade's keen face senses charting the easiest hiking path. Behind them, Dave and June walk together, and they talk to each other as much as they talk to you, sometimes with one or the other of them dropping back to walk beside you instead. For his part, Solix switches between flying above and darting from branch to branch of the trees that you go past. He doesn't really talk to anyone. In fact, as you watch him, he seems starkly different from usual. Solix often seems very aware of his Moirail and what's around him, but this is a whole new level. His behavior is clearly defensive, his every sense trained on detecting any danger in a way that puts you more in mind of a guard dog than a bodyguard. What it does remind you of is your nightmare, of Solix crouched on that broken tree, fending you off with primal ferocity. Your train probably wasn't prophetic, but you're sure that Solix would turn that same defensiveness on anything that came near Dave, and by token of your proximity, anything that came near you too. It makes you feel a little better. After a while of walking, you all take a break. You drink from your backpack thing, and you all trade snacks, sharing a bit of this and that. It's November now, so it's pretty cold, but despite that, it's not too bad for the time of year, and the cover of the trees keeps you a little warmer. So between the coat and the walking you've put in, you're comfortable enough. At least until Jade speaks. "Can everyone just shut up and stand still for a moment?" Jade asks, holding up a hand. Your group falls silent, all looking at her. From above, Solix peers down, crouched on a tree branch. "What?" Dave starts. "Shh!" Jade hisses. You stand up, along with the rest of your group, everyone suddenly uneasy. You turn to look around at the ground, and the ground crunches underfoot. You can hear the same from the others as they look around as well. The wind is rustling the leaves above you, and you don't hear anything of note. The tree branch creaks as Solix goes from crouching to standing, his head tilted to listen better. "I don't hear anything," Jade says quietly. "Good?" June says after a moment. "No, not good. No bugs, no little animals, no big ones either. I've been looking at the ground and I've not seen any animal tracks at all. I can't hear anything in this forest except the leaves and us," Jade explains. Your group goes quiet once more, and sure enough, Jade is right. It's not as if you've spent a lot of time in the woods since your memory started, but you can't hear anything that you can't put down to the wind. You're right, it's way too quiet. I couldn't tell because we were all talking, but woods never sound like this, Dave agrees quietly. "Perhaps we scared the creatures here by walking through, but I've never scared bugs away," Rose says. Jade looks around for a moment and then scurries off to a largest rock and flips it over. She looks for a few moments and then turns to a nearby tree and stares at that for a bit, then scuffles her hands through the dirt. Finally, she looks back at you. "There's no bugs. No bugs at all," Jade confirms. "I guess we don't need that bug spray I packed then," you say weakly. Solix jumps from trees and lands light as a cat on Dave's shoulders, sort of resting his knees on Dave's shoulders with his feet against his back, as he looks around almost like a meerkat. His larger eyes shut, and he looks around with only his smaller set. A few seconds pass, and Solix jumps off onto the ground. "So, aside from us and the plant life, I can't sense anything around here that can die, or not within my range anyways," Solix informs you all. "What about anything alive?" you ask worriedly. "Anything alive can die, stupid. Everything dies eventually," Solix says sharply. "I think we should keep walking, get out of this area as fast as we can. Your range isn't much, right? Half a mile or so?" June asks. You guess she knows that from her history with Solux. "About that. Let's go." Solux nods. Your group packs tight together in the same quiet formation as before, but this time no one talks. The wind dies down to nothing, and the silence around you all is oppressive. Nothing should be this quiet. Where are all the animals? The birds, bugs, the little mice and squirrels? You sort of wish you hadn't thought that when you find the first animal skeleton. Or more accurately, bits of skeleton. You suppose the bones must be old because they're completely clean, but the remains of what you think was, a deer is in about 3 parts. Is it bad that I'm really hungry all of a sudden? Jade says softly as your group hurries on past the skeleton. No one answers, but when Jade starts to nervously snack, the rest of you end up following suit too. You feel hungry even though you know you just ate recently. Maybe the crunching of your pocket-smashed granola bar between your teeth just provides some noise in the otherwise silent forest. You're thirsty too. Incredibly so. Above you, you hear a growl from Solux. Not him growling at something, but the more mundane sound of whatever he has analogous to a stomach complaining of hunger. But Solux doesn't need to eat or sleep. He doesn't work that way, so why... Solux is staring down at his own stomach as well, his face mutely horrified. He jumps back down to the floor and grabs you by the shoulders. Everyone stops to look at him. Karkat, I need you to do something for me, Solux says quietly, glancing around. What? You whisper. That shield thing you did before. I need you to do it again. I need you to do it again around all of you. A complete sphere around the whole group except for me. Don't drop it until I tell you. No matter what happens, you need to keep everyone safe, he tells you. You know what's doing this. What is it? June whispers in horror. Solix just shakes his head and pushes you all closer together. He's looking around warily as he backs off a little, but when he shoots you an expectant look, you know what he expects you to do. You know he expects you to do the thing you did. Your friends are huddled close by you, and you don't feel safe with anything that sets Solix on edge. Anything that he feels he needs your help to defend Dave and the rest of your friends can't be good. But this is the one thing you were able to do, your strength to the team. You harden your resolve, take a deep breath, and protect. A shimmering whitish bubble blooms around you all as you hold your hands out, and you can see where it dips into the ground and around you. Solix is the only one outside of it, and he nods at you, grateful. Solux, be careful, Dave warns him, and Rose holds onto his arm like she's afraid that he might try to leave the bubble. Hey, it's fine. You know I can't die. Solux smiles a little weakly. It's not the same thing, Dave protests, but Solix turns away. He takes a few steps from your bubble and looks around, glaring at the scenery around you. I know you're here, Jane. Don't make me summon you, Solux yells into the silent woodland. Not a single sound comes back. This time, when Solux growls, it's out of anger. He holds a hand out, and a circle starts forming on the ground in red and blue. There's really no need for that, a woman's voice says behind you. Everyone in your bubble bumps together as you all turn to see who spoke. There's a woman standing there, leaning against a tree trunk. With a snarl, Solux teleports between her and you. As you stare at her past Solux's form, you can see how out of place she looks. She looks like she's in her 30s, maybe. Certainly not old by any means, but older than the rest of you. She's dressed in bright red, but sharp women's business suit. The kind with a skirt and shoulder pads that puts you in mind of the 1980s power suits. Not that you remember the 80s, of course. Her hair is short and black, but neatly styled. Her blue eyes are sharp behind red-rimmed glasses, and generally her irritated but poised demeanor makes you think that she's going to ask to see someone's manager. She has that slightly ruthless, waspy vibe, and an air that unsettles you. The fuck are you doing here? Solix hisses. I certainly don't need your permission to go anywhere, the woman Solix addressed as Jane says. I didn't say you did. I just don't like you hanging around. Besides, this isn't the kind of place you usually hang around, is it? Solix points out. It's taking more than a little concentration to keep you all protected from her, but it becomes harder when movement distracts you. The tree Jane is leaning on has the kind of plants growing against it that you pay no attention to. Only now you can see that one plant is growing rapidly, winding itself tight around the trunk as it climbs up. Well, I thought Salem was the place to be, what with its exclusive parties that I'm not invited to, Jane says acidically. The vine keeps growing up the tree, tendrils plunging into the bark itself as it climbs. You think it might be one of those parasitic plants. As you look around, you see the same happening to other trees around you. I'm sorry, did I miss the part where we were friends? I didn't invite you because I don't like you, and you'd have killed everyone in that room. I don't throw a lot of parties, but if all your guests die, that's a bad one. Solix snaps angrily. You don't have Aradia around now for protection, so I'd watch your tone, mister. Jane snaps at him. Oh yeah? Go on then, kill me permanently. I know it's not my time to die anytime soon, and if anything would piss Aradia off, it would be someone dying when they're not meant to. Or did you forget that she's got a clock out there with your name on it too? You kill me, and I would be surprised if she hunted you down to even the scales. So go on, try me. Solux snarls at her. The plant around the tree keeps growing and growing. When one of the branches of the tree falls off and plummets to the ground, dry as a bone, it's all you can do to hold the barrier you've made. The bark of the tree splits as it seems like the very life is being sucked out of it. What are you doing here? Solux repeats again, since Jane didn't call him on his bluff. You're starting to feel a little lightheaded as you sway a bit. Easy, easy, keep going, you've got this, June says gently in your ear. Jane stares at Solux with a look of utter loathing, and just like that, she's gone. You haven't forgotten what Solux told you, though, and you don't drop the barrier. Solux looks around worriedly, turning around in every direction looking for her. Finally, he seems satisfied and presses his hand to the barrier. Let it go, he tells you, and you do so gladly. You buckle to your knees out of breath, but your friends have a good enough hold of you that they gently lower you to the ground. Who was that? Jade asks. Are you alright? Dave asks you quietly. I'm okay. I'm just a little lightheaded, you mumble. You did really well. You probably saved our lives, Rose tells you and squeezes your shoulder. He definitely did, Solux agrees. Who was that? Jade repeats angrily. Solux sighs and looks up at the strangled tree. Jane, but her proper name, or I guess you could say her title, is Famine. Solux says quietly and presses a finger to the tree. The whole thing snaps in half, and you see in horror that it's now hollow, the grasping vines of the plant that had wrapped around the tree reaching into what used to be the insides of it. She has that effect on things, makes you hungry. I mean, you'd think that in this day and age she'd be weaker, less famines around. But she makes people hungry for all sorts of things. People desperate to be famous, rich, powerful, the kind of hunger that's never enough. Not a lot of billionaires around that Jane hasn't got her claws into. She can do it to anything living. Without that shield, you'd probably all have either starved or started eating each other, Solux answers. But why's she here? It's not like things were fine and then got all weird. I'm pretty sure this forest has been like this way for a good while, June points out. Yeah, that's what I think, and I don't like that. I don't know what she's doing out here, but it can't be good, Solux agrees and warily glances around again. Well, what's her problem with you? Dave asks with a frown. You wonder if he can get behind the idea that someone might just not like Solux. I was involved with death, and, well, famine and war were never big fans of that. You'd think she'd be happy since they broke up with me, but I may have been a little involved in something that fucked up with very big plans of hers, Solux admits. You hold your hand out in front of you and see that they're trembling. You feel very weak. Not hungry, thank goodness, but weak. Actually, you can't help but wonder if your earlier hunger was a sign that you were closer to Famine herself. You have a horrible feeling that's exactly it. Solux crouches down in front of you and looks at your shaking hands and then peers into your eyes. He tuts and mutters something disapprovingly that you don't catch. Wait here, he tells you and teleports away. Maybe that's why the other Fae were hiding, staying in another plane away from her, Jade says after a few quiet seconds. That sounds about right. A few minutes pass before Solux returns, and when he crouches down in front of you, he has a glass in his hand with a familiar-looking thick amber liquid in it. Here, drink this, he tells you and presses the glass into your hand. Before you can do anything to stop him, the glass magically falls from your grip and shatters on the soft forest floor. As soon as the liquid inside touches the ground, the forest floor blooms in tiny little flowers and moss, which neatly spell out the word dick prints on the ground, with bits of broken glass embedded here and there. Gee, if only he wasn't cursed, Rose says flatly. June snorts, barely repressing laughter. Solux grumbles and vanishes again. When he reappears, he has the same kind of glass in his hand. Before he gives it to you this time, he presses a bare hand to the delicate skin of your forearm, and you feel something magical in you shift. There, Solux mutters and slaps the glass into your palm. You hold it, and for the first time in a week, you don't drop the glass. Solux lifted the curse he'd put on you. You're too tired to think on it more, and instead you drink. Like before, the taste of the drink is so familiar, rich and sweet. When you've drained it, you feel a lot better, and you're able to get on your feet again. The rest of your group seems wary of your surroundings, but June is anxiously watching you as if you might drop dead or something. Somehow, you think if Solix was going to kill you, he wouldn't have done it by poisoning you. None of you are keen to stay here, so once it's clear you can walk without keeling over, you all start moving again, eager to put the hollowed-out trees behind you. You don't hear any more animals or bugs as you go, but also Jane doesn't show up again either. As early afternoon passes, your group crests the hillside where the trees are thinner. Looking down into the valley below, you can see the lake off to the left, but more interestingly... "Are those RVs?" June asks, peering down the hill. "And tents and motorhomes, but we're miles and miles from any road. How did they get here?" Rose wonders. "Can I put in a vote for not investigating the weird shit?" Dave asks hopefully. "I'm kind of in favor of that," you agree. Yeah, but we don't know... but if we don't know, then... but if we don't, then we don't know what could be nearby, Solix reasons. "Knowledge is power," Rose agrees with a nod. "I think power is power, but I'm also all for investigating," Jade nods. "I also vote investigate. You two chickens are outvoted. Let's go!" June agrees and hurries off down the hill. You sigh and go with. The hill itself is steep enough that you think if you tried to stop the jog down it, then you'd certainly trip and fall. So, as it is, you all make to the campsite pretty quickly. It is a whole bunch of RVs and motorhomes and the like. A whole group of cars, too. They're all They're all parked in a sort of semicircle, and when you creep around the edges of it, you see that there's a big stone circle with a large square center stone and standing stones around it. You take a step forward, and your foot clinks against a bottle hidden in the long grass. You bend down and pick it up and see that weather-worn label is for Jack Daniels. The closer you all get, the more empty bottles of booze you find, not to mention faded food wrappers. You raise your eyebrows when you see a discarded bra over a rock, but it looks like it's been there for quite a while. It's all faded and discolored. Solix squints at the stone circle, not willing to go into it. Your gaze shifts from the abandoned bra to the empty bottles to the circle, and it hits you. "Dionysus," you gasp. "Oh, yeah, you're right," Solix says softly, walking around one of the stones and running a finger over it. "God of wines, parties, and general debauchery," Rose asks and looks around with a smile. "Yeah, that's cool and all, but where are all the people? There's no one here and all their shit is still here. Cars and stuff, and it looks like it's been a while," Dave points out. He's right. The car he's pointing at has dust inside, and there are leaves built up on the roof and windows. A few of the motorhomes have their doors still open. June pulls a large hammer from her bag and hops inside a motorhome, disappearing inside. "June?" Jade calls out worriedly. "Oh, wow, that is a lot of cocaine," June shouts from inside. "Is she joking?" Dave asks warily. Solix makes an uncertain sound and seesaws with his hand. "God of revelry, illicit substances are to be expected," Rose points out. Solix hops on the steps of the motorhome and takes the two of them up as June gasps loudly inside. "Holy shit!" June yelps, and you see Solix turn around to look at her. He jumps a literal foot in the air and bolts back out of the motorhome, wide-eyed and obviously rattled. Your sickle falls instantly into your hand, and you're ready to defend when June bursts out, brandishing. "That is comically large," Rose says with a laugh as June waggles what you can only categorize as an exceedingly ambitiously sized sex toy at her. "I really hope that was clean," Jade points out. June grimaces and drops the thing, which bounces comically down the steps. At your side, Dave steps back, and the clearly unsettled Solix slightly behind with him goes with. You take in Solix's clear discomfort with some amusement. "You're a demon and this freaks you out," you tease him. "Shut up," Solix mutters. Your group checks each and every motorhome, car, RV, and everything. There's no one there at all. Certainly a lot of things that tell you there were very devout followers of Dionysus. Everything here seems to be geared to either just getting out of your head for a party or very blatantly sexual. Sure, there's things that you don't want to touch for hygiene reasons, but nothing seems weird. Aside from how there's no one here. Solix and Dave both stay outside. They claim they're keeping watch, but you don't buy it. "So where is everyone?" you ask as you come out to the last RV. "The cars are still here for things that need towing. No one left," Dave says. "Maybe they broke down and other people drove them back home?" Jade suggests. "Then you'd leave your trash behind, sure, but June said there was a huge brick of coke in there. You wouldn't leave that behind," Dave argues. "And you'd come back and tow things," Solix adds. So what then? Jane got them? I don't see any bodies, you say. You look around uneasily at the mention of Jane, but she doesn't leap out from behind anything like some shitty jump scare in a horror movie. There would be bodies if it was her, I'm sure. I've seen her affect people. They die as fast as that tree did. If they'd eaten each other, there'd be signs of violence, but I can't see anything, Solok says. There were mentions of kelpies in the lake, and that's not too far off. Perhaps skinny dipping gone bad, Rose suggests. That's certainly possible. Legends about kelpies vary from place to place, but the common features include a black horse in the water that sometimes can transform into a woman. There are certain overlaps with sirens too, sometimes enticing people into the water itself. Regardless of the method, the goal is always to drown someone in the water. A bunch of drugged up revelers are going to be more susceptible than most to that kind of thing, especially if the kelpie looks like a naked woman at the water's edge. It seems pretty clear that all these people are dead, and exploring has a darker edge to it now. You take a few moments to snap pictures of all the license plates of the vehicles. When you get back, you'll report their location. If they have loved ones out there wondering where they went at all, at least they'll know something. We should find somewhere to set up camp, Jade says when you're done. No one suggests camping where you are now. Your group heads up the other hillside of the valley that you're in and carefully heads a good distance back from the lake. None of you wants an encounter with any murder horses, thanks. There's a little clearing that's as good as any, and you start setting up a fire as Dave and June start setting up a tent. The moment you're done with the wood for the fire, Solok flicks a hand and sets it alight. Far easier than matches. He hovers a good 8 feet above the highest flame and patiently keeps watch. That's definitely not the main tenty roofy pole, June says as Dave tries to jam 2 poles together. No, I'm sure this is it, Dave replies and tries to bend the pole a little. It strings apart from the other one that he'd been trying to attach it to, and the 2 idiots have to rush off to retrieve it. Yeah, you're not getting involved in that. You're going to help with dinner. You carefully chop some chili peppers on a small chopping board as Rose stirs 1 pot. At her side, Jade sets the lid on a pot of water and rice, taking it off to heat the steam. By the time you've all made dinner, the tent is upright and actually looks stable. When you eat, Solix actually joins your group for food. He's probably still feeling hungry after being around famine. He doesn't talk to you or sit near you, but he's not making it very obvious that he's ignoring you either. It's a slight improvement from the past week. It's also nice to be able to sit and hold a drink to your lips without it flinging itself to the floor and insulting you when it lands. June suggests playing Never Have I Ever to pass the time before you go to sleep, but Jade lived alone on an island for years, and before that, with just her grandpa for company, you can't remember anything before the event. It's not going to be an interesting game. You settle for cards and toasting marshmallows. You give up when it becomes obvious that the game you're playing is not rummy, but rather who can cheat the most without getting caught. You turn to sleep when everyone else does. You're all sharing the same tent because it'd be stupid to have a different one based on sex. For start, Rose is incredibly gay, and if you could be tempted into sleeping with anyone here, it'd be Dave. So putting Rose with the girls and you with Dave is just dumb. Besides, it's November, and it's pretty goddamn cold, even with the fire going, so having the one tent with you all snuggled up in it is way smarter. Solix is staying outside to keep watch, and you all set up that circle of detecting intention to harm, and you're pleased to see that this time Solix doesn't set it off at all. You figure that saving the lives of your mutual friends has softened his anger towards you. You hope so anyway. Inside the tent, your sleeping bag, inside the tent you're in, your sleeping bag, curled around June for warmth. On the other side of her is Jade, loudly snoring, filling in a Lalonde sandwich. It's nice, cozy. You're not used to sleeping with people, but the presence of another living person slowly breathing next to you is reassuring after the day you've had. And yet you can't sleep. After an hour of tossing and turning, you jam your feet into your boots and shuffle out the tent. Solix is looking at you when you come out, but when he sees that it's you, he goes back to watching the horizon with a bored expression. Can't sleep, you mumble and shuffle over to the fire. Solix has kept the fire high, so it's nice and bright out. He doesn't seem like he's going to talk to you for a while, so you read the book you brought on plants. It's dull, but not enough to make you sleep. Seen anything? You ask Solix finally. No, Solix answers. Well then. You put your book away and pull out your tarot deck. You start shuffling it for something to do with your hands. Every so often you turn a card around and try to remember the meaning of it. Your focus shifts when Solix sinks lower in the air, closer to the fire. I don't want to talk to you, he starts with a sigh, but no one else is awake. Thanks, you mutter. I don't really want to talk to you, just at you. I can't figure this out, and thinking out loud can, Solix says with a shrug. Do you want me to ask questions? You ask him and flip a card over. It's his card, the Two of Swords. You frown and flip it back. If they're sensible, I might not answer though, Solix tells you. You resist saying that him not answering you is nothing new. So let's say that Jane's bored. She starts starving a forest, but why here instead of some third world country or some terrible dictatorship? If she feels like going classic famine, that's where she'd do it, not here, Solix says. Was there something that lived here, you wonder? I don't know. It's pretty uncharted. You're not supposed to come out here, and I'm betting those guys down there weren't supposed to be here either. She's not a god, she doesn't need belief or anything, and animals wouldn't do anything for her. She goes on, or Solix goes on. As far as I know, there's nothing geographic that'd make her come here. It's not a gateway or anything, no more than anywhere else, he adds. Okay, so what if it's not what is here, but what's not, you suggest? Solix tilts his head and thinks for a moment. I'd say we're pretty far from any temples or whatever, but it doesn't matter after the event. Plus, that's not true because of the whole Dionysus thing down here. As far as I know, there wasn't much beef between the two of them. If anything, she made people hunger for more, and he was all about overindulging, so it's not like they would have been opposing. So, I don't think she'd have wanted to nuke this place specifically. The only thing that's not really here is people, well, aside from them, Solix says. Could be hiding something, but she's got a whole plane on her own to hide things on if she wanted. It'd have to be something here, Solix says with a frown and leans back in the air. It seems like she's been doing whatever for a while, right? So it's not going to be because of the party or because we're here, you say, and Solix nods. If it was anyone else, I'd have an idea, but it wouldn't work for her, Solix says with a frown. Such as, you prompt. If Aradia was lurking here, I'd suspect something bad and important was going to go down, like a nuclear bomb going off or a volcano erupting. She always tried to oversee the big disasters. If it was pestilence, I'd think she was using this place as a nursery for some new disease, some super malaria or something. If it was war, well, it wouldn't be war. War couldn't plan her way out of a wet paper bag. She made others want to scheme. She just wants blood. Surprise, sneaky attacks with delayed gratification isn't her thing. But it's not any of them, it's famine, Solix explains. Something creeping and awful runs up your spine, and the cards fall from your hands. Your breath catches, and all you can work out is that something is terribly, awfully wrong. What? Solix asks in surprise. Is there something there? You ask, your voice shaking. You stand up and look ahead, past your tent into the night. Solix floats up higher in the air and stares into the dark for several long moments. I can't see anything, can't sense anything either, he tells you finally. Wrongness creeps all over your skin and you wrap your hands around your arms and hug yourself tight to fend it off. Not that it works. Maybe I'm just jumpy, you say uncertainly. It feels like every sound that's probably the wind or fire is something else coming closer. Famine makes people jumpy, Solix says, not outright telling you that it's okay, and he understands, but he's also not telling you that. You kneel down and pick up your fallen tarot cards and freeze when you see that every card that faces up on the floor is the same. Death. Solux, tell me how your sense works, you whisper, not daring yet to pick up the cards. I get a sort of vibe off things that can die if I really look for it. Like I said, everything dies. It's a doom thing, Solix explains. You scoop up your handful of death cards and stand up again. What if something is already dead? You say quietly. Well, that's... Solix seems to hesitate. Famine was here, right? Can something dead be hungry? You whisper. You and Solix stare at each other for a long moment and you hear something crack that you didn't think was the fire. Solix raises a hand and the large circle that you all drew around your campsite catches a light. Solix's affinity with fire using the edges of the magic to illuminate what's beyond it. It's a distant enough light to see that there is something moving out there past the circle. Solix doesn't need to tell you to wake the others up. You sprint into the tent and throw yourself at the others, grabbing up your bags and shouting at them to get up, to get their shoes on because you have to go and you have to go now. Needless to say, they're all wide awake when you do that because you can shout. In less than a minute, you're all blearily out of the tent, Dave still jamming his feet into his shoes. At first you think Solix is gone, but you catch sight of him far up in the air. He plummets like a stone and lands on the ground. We need to go. There's an island in the middle of the lake. If we can get there, it might stop them, Solix insists. The lake full of kelpies. Why? What are we? Rose is cut off with a scream as a distant moan startles you all. They're close enough to the fire that you can make them out now. They were people once, shambling, dragging themselves right toward you as they crossed your circle and the light flares, but you didn't need it to tell you that they meant harm. You all start to run. There's no time to talk, but unfortunately you can't run as fast as you otherwise might have been able to because the woods are dark now and the ground is uneven. You wrestle a flashlight from your bag, your hands sweaty on it. Your necklace with its crystal bounces against your neck as you run. If they get too close, you can teleport back. You'll fail, but you won't be eaten by the undead. You're gonna call them that, not the Z word. Solix, teleport. Take everyone else. I'll get Carcat. Dave pants as he runs. You're not sure what he means, but as you reach the water's edge, Solix grabs the rest of your friends and vanishes. Dave wrenches his bag open and pulls out a glaring neon skateboard. That thing again. You want to say there's no way that you're going to get on that god-awful thing again, but the undead are lurching after you, faster than you would have thought they could have managed. You hear them crashing through the trees. Dave stands on the board and holds a hand out to you. You rush to him, wrapping your arms around him. We gotta jump on 3, up and down on the board, okay? 1, 2, 3. Dave counts and you hop slightly in place. As you touch down on the board again, you clip through the ground slightly and then ping off away, just as what was once a man in a leather harness lurches for you. As you fly off, you're dropping lower and lower, and the wheels of the skateboard clip through the water and you both come tumbling off. The board is stuck to Dave's hand like he's doing some skate trick with it. When you open your eyes again, you nearly throw up. You should be underwater, and opening your eyes should show you the underside of the lake. Maybe some angry kelpies. Instead, though, what you see is like a video game glitch. The water surface is badly rendered above you, and below you an endless drop. Stacked up inside it is something like a jukebox, the old ones with all the records lined up in it, but each record is a whole plane of reality. Sickeningly huge in scale, you shouldn't be able to ever see. You can't be outside of infinity like this, but somehow you are. As suddenly as you came into that terrible place, you both flip out of it, sliding along the wet, muddy shore for a few seconds and then abruptly, both standing on the board again together. You're not too proud to admit that you immediately get off and throw up. Yes, that's happened to me before too, Rose says softly from nearby. You very nearly scream at her for making you come here specifically. This is the last time you listen to one of her visions. What did you expect, listening to Cthulhu of all gods? With shaking limbs, you stand on the little island in the middle of the lake. As you look around with your flashlight, you're very aware that the undead could be here as well, but you don't hear or see anything. That wasn't right, Jade whispers. Solux, I need you to throw a fireball across the lake towards the shore we came from, Rose says. She pulls out a binocular and points them back the way they all came. Kate, Solux says, and flings fire over the water. What about forest fires? Okay, Jade sighs. The fire rushes over the water and finally extinguishes on the other side. I have good news and bad news, Rose says a moment later. Fuck it, bad news first, Dave says. Bad news, there look to be at least 30 zombies there, and they're marching right into the water towards us. I don't think the lake is all that deep, so I guess they're intending on walking right towards us. There may be more that were already in the water before I looked, Rose says, and lowers her binoculars grimly. And the good news? June asks. Solix's fireball extinguished on the bank. No forest fires today, or tonight, Rose amends, looking up at the dark sky. You all stare at the water and what you now know lies below it, making its way towards you. It's a decent distance, and they have to go down at least somewhat first, plus the water should give some resistance, but you're going to assume you maybe have 10 minutes. I don't think they're zombies, Solix says slowly. They sure looked like zombies. Pretty sure they're both what happened to those worshippers and the worshippers themselves. Some of them were wearing some pretty NSFW stuff, man, Dave points out. No, zombies are people infected with a disease that Pestilence made, and it keeps coming up every so often, but humans know how to deal with it. It made her really sad because she was proud of that one, A told me. She didn't like it because it fucked with dead people, and she's protective of them. But that was something Famine made. But that was something that Famine made. Jane made dead people so hungry they move. That's no wonder she's out here. She's hiding her experiments from the others, I bet, Solix says, still staring across the water. How did they die in the first place? Wouldn't Aradia know that? Rose asks in a whisper. I'd guess they died from a hunger they couldn't fill. Either they died or they passed into something that can't, because they still don't ping to me as something that can die. They can be destroyed probably, but it's not the same. I swear this is Jane's work, not pestilences. Solix insists. Are they going to want to eat us? Because if so, I don't care who's responsible. We have to tell people they're here. Dave insists. I guess. Solix nods. But if we go back, we fail the test, Rose points out. Fuck the test, Dave snaps. Well, Solix can teleport us if it gets to that. Even if he takes me too, and it takes a minute, I could do the barrier thing again, so we'd be fine, you say, trying to reassure yourself. We wouldn't be fine, Solix counters. Why not? Jade asks. I teleport you in a split second. We're still moving because that's how this plane works. I can't go through that shield of his. Our velocity is however fast you have to go to travel that far in a split second. Momentum isn't a problem with how my teleportation works, but if it hit something like Karkat's shield, well, we'd all hit it at however many thousands of miles an hour that'd be. If you feel like becoming a mixed species smoothie, that's fine by me, but I'm not going to be the one to do it, Solix argues. Alright, but what if you just held it long enough for you to draw it and then dropped it, Dave suggests. Trusting that he did that right, we'd still be surrounded by that point, and I'm not taking those things back to Salem. That's exactly the kind of chaos that Jane was probably trying to create, Solix says with a shake of his head. Rose starts suggesting another alternative of escaping an emergency, but your mind is drawn elsewhere. A whisper tickles your awareness and you jump, swinging the light in your hand around, but you see nothing. Everyone looks at you for a moment or two and then goes back to debating on what to do. You're all jumpy. If we can find somewhere to hide or to stay ahead of them until the time we have to go back, then we can still pass, June suggests. But they're not going to sleep or rest. We have to, someone else insists. You step away from the group, straining your ears to hear. There's something. It's not the leaves rustling because there's no wind. Attacking them would be stupid. If it is infectious, you're just spreading around the pathogen, another one of your friends points out. There is definitely something, just on the edge of hearing. Shut up, you snap, looking back at them. You shut up, Solix counters. No, just shh, you say, holding your finger to your lip. Your friends fall silent, looking around worriedly. There's something, a subtle hissing noise. I can't feel anything that can die here, but that doesn't rule out those things, Solix says after a moment, entirely ruining your ability to hear. I said shut up, you hiss and step further away from the group. There's definitely something here. Is that people? You say quietly as your friends slink closer to you. I don't hear anything, June whispers. You creep forward, and the sibilant hiss of words that you can't make out gets a little louder. There's definitely something, but when you look at your friends, they seem confused. An idea hits you and you cover your ears, but you can still hear them. It's in your head. It's books. I hear books, you gasp. Oh, cool. Karkat's lost his mind. Good to know, June mutters. No, my boss taught me library magic. I can sense books. I think it must be a lot of them for me to be able to hear them from when I can't even see them yet, you say in wonder. Books are typically kept indoors, especially a library's worth. That means there's a structure of some kind close by, somewhere to hide and possibly somewhere defensible, Rose says thoughtfully. Wait, I think I can sense something alive. Maybe an animal hibernating. It's really faint, Solix says with a frown. So we have some books and possibly a hibernating bear. Great, Dave rumbles. It's that or go back to the university, Jade reasons. No one seems fantastically happy about this, but you're hardly flush with good options here. So together you walk on, with you walking closer to the direction the sound seems the loudest. It's absolutely books you can hear now. You can tell. The island isn't big, but it does have a peak in the middle, which is where you end up leading everyone to. It's rocky up here, and you walk around for a bit before you end up at a loss. Oh, here, Solix says, just as you're about to give up. He raises his hand and a huge stone lifts up, revealing a cave mouth. Bears don't generally barricade themselves inside, so you're a little reassured that this isn't a bear cave. Distant splashing reaches your ears, and you spin around along with the others. Your lights just about reach the shore below, where many wet, decaying, and hungry bodies are clawing their way out the sand. Into the cave it is, Dave squeaks and rushes towards it. The rest of you are keeping pace with him, and in no time at all, you're all inside with Solix dropping the giant boulder behind you. You're glad that you've all got flashlights out, except for Solix, whose face is basically one, and beyond that, he has a handful of crackling flames. You all stick nervously together, and unusually, you're in front. You drag the beam of light across the inside of the cave. It's big inside and slopes down into what is easily under the waterline. Solid rocks make up the walls and the ceiling, which must be why the water hasn't seeped through and flooded the inside. Actually, despite the lake, the place is cold and very dry indeed. The whisper of books fills your head, louder now, begging to be read. Propelled by curiosity, you lead the others deeper into the cave. There's dust all over the floor and flashes of bright discarded fabric, but they're not books, so you don't pay much attention. A sudden squeak makes you leap a foot in the air, and you hear a girlish scream behind you. You don't know if it came from one of the girls or Dave. It certainly wasn't Solux because he's floating in the air off to the side. June stands up with what looks like a soft toy in her hand. Something's ripped it apart, but it still squeaks when June squeezes it. That's deeply creepy, Solux notes and floats a little closer to Dave. It's just a toy, we're fine, you mumble and start walking again. The beam of your flashlight finally catches on a stone shelf carved into the very rock, and you gasp in delight to see them absolutely heaving with books. You rush ahead and stare at shelf after shelf of neatly organized books. They're all in perfect order as well. Clearly, they're very well loved. They're all books on law or philosophy of law, history of law. It's all law, Rose says as she looks over them as well. I told you I heard books, you say, and point your flashlight at Solux, who just rolls his eyes and lands on the ground without a sound. Congratulations on your useless superpower, Solux sneers. We wouldn't have found this place otherwise, so it's not exactly useless, Dave points out, trying to keep the peace. Yeah, still they're in amazing condition, you say softly as you turn back to the shelves and slide a book off of it. Are you sure you should be touching those? What if they're cursed? Jade asks. They don't feel like the cursed books in the library, you tell her and flick through the pages. The books almost purr under your attention. They've not been read in so long. Wait, Solix says behind you. Shh, reading, you tell him and flick to the front cover. On the inside, where you'd normally find the law and library plate and the checkout information, there's a similar but different one. Salem University Memorial Library, X-Library Edition. It's from the university's old library, sold by the looks of it. A gush of hot air rushes past you, making the hairs on your neck stand on end. That wasn't the breeze, June whispers. You turn around, facing Solux. He's looking around sharply, trying to see something, anything that's here besides you and these books. Then, behind him, the wall moves. What had looked like dirty stones starts falling off in chunks as a big red eye opens. Solux whirls around, but before he can do anything, a huge mouth opens and bites him in half. Dave screams. Rose certainly does as well. You think you all do. The creature is massive as it shifts, and the dirt flakes off of it, and you can see it's a gigantic teal-colored dragon. On the floor, what was left of Solux bubbles down into liquid gold and dribbles down this dragon's gigantic maw. Its nostrils flare, hot and wet air flows over you and then back again as it breathes in deeply. What are you doing with my books? A voice comes inside your head that's distinctly not yours. Oh, fuck, I was just looking. I heard them from outside, and I didn't know what the books would be doing in this cave, so I came to have a look, and I wasn't going to take them, you insist desperately. Dragons are hardly common. Some of them can hibernate for hundreds of years at a time. They're big and bulky apex predators that feed on flesh as much as they do pure magic itself. People have theorized that they flit between planes where the magic is strongest. In the past, they've demanded ritual sacrifices as a way of getting humans to channel magic to them, and getting a screaming meal at the same time. They're still so rare. And here you are, zombies and dragons all in one day. Oh, and famine as well. The whole day's going sideways, you almost forgot. The dragon leans closer to you, featureless red eyes moving ever so slightly, but it puts its nose up close to you. Rose clutches your arm with one hand, and one of her needles in the other. You pray she's not about to do anything stupid. You keep talking. I work at the library at the university. I'm a student. I was just admiring your collection, that's all. You've got almost all the books on law we have, I think, you babble. She ate him, June, but it's not... He shouldn't still be dead, Dave hisses to the side. You have books that I don't? The voice in your head asks. Its sound is grating, but curious, and it makes you shudder. Still, you nod and you pull your phone out. You have an app for the library, and with shaking fingers, you pull up the law collection. Yeah, see? This is one of Herring's books, but if I look him up on ours, we have an up-to-date edition of Great Debates in Criminal Law, and also the 2013 8th edition of Criminal Law by him as well. It's even on the e-reader, you say, sheer terror making you reel back into library babble. The dragon tilts its head at you and blinks. What is an e-reader? Oh, it's like an app on your phone, like this one, or a Kindle or something. Look, you say, and you open up the digital edition of the book. You scroll through it and hold it out to the dragon. The dragon sniffs your phone and suddenly rears back. Giant clawed feet push the thing upright, and its neck ripples. It opens its massive jaw, and for a horrible moment, you think you're about to go up in flames. But no. The dragon makes a sound that's like a water sloshing from end to end in a half-empty bottle, a sort of wet, sucking, gagging sound. Its head jerks back and forth for a moment. You have a split second to think that you've seen cats on TV do this, before the dragon horks Solux up all over the floor. He slides a good 10 feet on thick dragon spit, his legs slapping wetly to the ground the moment his momentum stops. Solux! Dave yelps and rushes to him. The dragon shakes itself off, seemingly just as displeased by this as Solux obviously is, if the noises of disgust you're hearing are anything to go by. Ugh! The dragon shakes, and then, in a sliding shift of its scales, it's suddenly no longer there. Instead, there's a girl who looks about your age. She has messy, jaw-length black hair, and sharp, almost scaled horns coming out of her head. A teal-scaled tail swishes behind her, and she snatches your phone from your hands. Your shock prevents you from stopping her, partly at the shapeshifting, but partly because this dragon is now humanoid and completely goddamn naked. She sniffs at your phone and squints at it with completely red eyes. This will do. I've decided not to eat you. Besides, I've seen you before, and I know I couldn't eat you anyway, the dragon says as she sits down on the floor cross-legged and keeps reading, which, as you previously noted, she's very naked, so you have to avert your eyes. Do you have to be naked? June asks her a little sharply. It's my cave, and besides, just because you put clothes on to go flouncing around doesn't mean I have to. The dragon huffs and keeps reading. Across the room, Solux bursts into flames, and when they die down, he's now dry of dragon spit. But still, it looks incredibly gross. It still looks incredibly grossed out. Sorry, you start. Carcat Mantis, I know. Terezi Pyrope, she says, and smiles widely at you with far more pointy teeth than should ever be able to fit in a mouth like that. Have we met? Do you know me? You ask her and crouch down so you can look her in the eye. We've not met before. I'm a seer. I've seen you. Terezi laughs. Her laugh hurts your ears a little. Oh, wait, you're the dragon seer then. The one Dr. Lalonde wrote about, you say as the puzzle pieces click together in your head. You know Roxy? Terezi chirps, lowering her phone for the first time. Or your phone for the first time, not her phone. She's my mother, Rose says from behind you. Terezi looks past you at Rose and then across the room to where Dave and Solux are. Her grin stretches wide. Oh, clever girl. Can't avert a prophecy, but you can fuck with it. Always was the smart one. I should go see her. We were friends before I had my nap. Terezi laughs brightly. How long have you been asleep? You ask her curiously, since it seems like she's not going to eat you now. Terezi frowns. If you click that button, you can see the calendar, you tell her, creeping a little closer to the naked dragon girl to point out the button to her, and then show her the calendar app. The year on this is wrong, you say with a frown. No, it's not, you say uneasily, looking to see that it is the correct date. It is. It's years out. Whatever. I've only slept a bit. Normally I'd wake up when I'm hungry, but I'm really hungry now for some reason. Terezi sighs. You lean away slightly. You don't want to be the solution to her hunger. That was probably Jane's doing. Famine would drain whatever's already in your stomach. And as someone who is just in there, I can tell you there's nothing in there. Solux snarls at her. Famine? Terezi repeats, standing up. Holy fuck, just clothes! June hisses and looks sharply away. Aw, does this bother you, or do you like what you see? Terezi crackles in amusement. Not that June seems to care. Not that June seems to agree. Funny, June mutters, keeping her gaze averted. As it happens, Terezi doesn't look entirely human. She's too pointy, every bone too sharp and angular. She doesn't look starved or anything, but it's just that she's pointier than she should be. Like she's trying to be human, but she can't quite remember how they look. As she walks past you towards Solux, you get a good look at the way teal scales run up her spine before fading into human skin. Her tail slices through the air in a movement that reminds you of when Solux was a snake. What was that about famine? She asks Solux again. The horseman. She'd been fucking around out here. That's why there's something like zombies outside. Solix tells her tersely. Zombies? Oh, no. Not in my forest. I didn't mind Dio's people fucking about down there, but not zombies. Terezi growls. She marches up the incline of the cave, and when she reaches the boulder, she shoves it aside as if it was made of styrofoam and not tons and tons of solid rock. The undead are out there. Of course they are. Wait, you yelp in fear, rushing towards her as the zombies fling themselves at her. You don't get there in time. Terezi's humanoid form is shorter than you. Her body slightly for all that it is too sharp. The zombie that goes for her first is at least 6 foot tall, and he bodily throws himself at her, his jagged mouth open wide. His teeth crash into her shoulder, but her skin doesn't give. The others around her are trying to drag her, to gnaw at her, but she's unmoving. You stand there open-mouthed, then watch as Terezi walks forward as if she was taking a pleasant stroll through a field of wildflowers, not dragging several zombies along. She crouches and bursts into the air, her body rippling until she's a large dragon again. You're right at the cave entrance when you see the light in the back of her throat. Sheer panic stalls you. At your side, Solix flings his hand back, and you hear your friends yelp, and hear the distant sound of them being thrown back as the fire hits you. The world around you becomes scorching, roaring white. It doesn't hurt, just like there's no other fire that's got near you has hurt before. You hold your breath, and you look at Solix, who is standing at your side equally unharmed. Behind him, the rock is starting to melt. The fire shifts off of you, and Terezi moves to torch the rest of her island, breath after white breath, incinerating everything as it touches. Aside from Solix, there is nothing around you that's alive. The fuck? You whisper, looking at him. That'll solve the zombie problem, all right, Solix says quietly, looking up at the sky. The others, you gasp, turning back to the cave. She enchanted the place so she'd never burn the books. Safest place for them right now. Don't make them come out here where everything's molten stupid. Solix tuts at you. Look, it's not my fault I don't know everything, you snap at him. Solix doesn't say anything, but instead he just looks away from you and guilt settles over you. Listen, I don't want to hurt you, and I know I'm stupid, and I don't know everything I should. I know I've been inconsiderate and all, and You try. Don't, Solix interrupts. Don't what? You ask him irritably. Don't say sorry when you don't even know what you're saying sorry for, he tells you sharply. Well, it's not my fault I don't know shit, you shout at him, your voice echoing off the water. You're not even sorry for that. You could have told me anything about any of that. You know I don't remember anything, you accuse him, quieter this time. Yeah, well, I don't... Forget it, Solix mutters and looks away. You could kill him. The thought is fucking tempting right now. You shove him in the chest instead, and he looks at you furiously. I don't remember. I'm not psychic. I don't know anything about what demons are like beyond what you tell me or what I can try to read and hope is accurate. So you don't get to bitch that I'm fucking things up without you doing anything to tell me what's going on. I don't understand any of this, you argue back, right in his face now. Yeah, you don't know shit. That's clear, Solix hisses at you. So tell me, you shout back. Solix grimaces and backs off, once more looking away from you. What, are you going to claim that there's something stopping you from telling me about your feelings now too? You ask him sarcastically. No, I just don't want to, Solix shouts finally, and that has a ring of actual truth to it. Why? You say flatly. Because I didn't have to... You shouldn't have... Well, if you're so damn curious, why don't you make me tell you, huh? Solix asks, his voice shaking with emotion. You think I'd force you to tell me something that you look like you're about ready to cry just talking about? You clearly don't want to tell me anything, and I'm not going to force you against your will. That's not fair. I couldn't do that, you say, a little hurt that he'd even say that. Although that's probably what he was going for, lashing out at you to get you to back off. You're left standing there looking at him, with him staring right back at you. Suddenly you feel tired and mostly just sad. You sigh and break eye contact first, sitting down at the mouth of the cave. The others are probably worried about you. Dave was pretty upset when you got eaten. You tell him flatly and stare out at the burning island. Solix hesitates, seemingly caught between going in and staying out here. What? Why are you staying here? You made it pretty clear that you don't even want to be friends, you say bitterly. I didn't say that, Solix says, his voice quiet. He may as well have said, and his actions have said enough. You know you're at fault here, but goddammit, so is he and Dave. No one needs to negotiate polyamory Lalonde. If he wants to change your mind about any of this, then he knows where you are. Solix hesitates, but eventually goes back inside the cave. You keep watch, and spend time between now and the dawn watching as Trezzy circles through the air, burning the unliving shit of anything that moves. To keep your hands busy, you shuffle your tarot cards, and that have thankfully turned back to normal instead of all being death. You don't draw any of them to look at them, though, too worried that you'll see lovers in any configuration or Solux's Two of Swords. Over the hour it takes for Trezzy to come back to you, or come back, a couple of your friends come on to check on you, but you guess you give off the impression that you kind of want to be left alone. A few times you think you see something moving at the edge of the water, only for Trezzy to scoop down low and cremate it. You kind of just hope that the Kelpies are laying low if they're still alive. Even if they want to drown people, you can't say that any of this shit is their fault. That's just how they are. You watch as Trezzy lands near you, her body shifting until she falls the last bit to the ground in a humanoid shape. Are you actually shape-shifting, or are you doing something else? You ask as she saunters close. Like folding my body into a smaller space within myself that it could possibly exist? Trezzy grins. She rolls her shoulders, and suddenly she's clothed. Seemingly, if June isn't here to be annoyed by it, she doesn't feel the need to be naked. Or maybe she's just remembered how to make clothes. You don't know. You can't say that you've entirely understand what she's wearing. It's some kind of teal and red robe affair that parts around her tail. It's all incredibly brightly colored, though, as if someone's just slid the saturation slider over to the max. Yeah, that, I guess. You nod. It's not like it's hard if you don't fully exist on this plane. I guess when I was little it was hard because I didn't know how to do it, but it's like flying a bike, Trezzy explains as she sits next to you. Riding a bike, you say after a moment, but she just shrugs. Her tail sweeps a path through the ashes as she looks out at the burnt island and the forest ahead of you both. So you knew Dr. Lalonde then? You gave prophecies to her? You ask curiously. Why? Do you want to know one? Trezzy asks, turning her blank red eyes on you. They're so very red and scorching, and you feel like she can see into your soul. You take a moment to consider her question. Honestly, no. You admit, still a little wary of upsetting her in case she tries to eat you. You might be immune to fire, but you're not Solux. You're pretty sure that this dragon digestive juices would kill you dead, and you'd stay that way. Why is that? She asks. Her voice is like gravel going through a wood chipper. Because I have enough trouble with the past, and the present clearly isn't going great. I'd honestly rather leave the future alone. It's going to end up as the present eventually, right? I'll deal with it then, you say with a shrug. That's a very interesting way of looking at it. Tell me, though, why are you out here anyway? You nerds don't seem like the type to go camping. Well, maybe the Fae girl and your tricksy little blue friend, Terezi says now. We were camping, but I guess that our tent is probably melted now. It was a tent for our magical defense, it was a test for our magical self-defense class. Survive a weekend outside of normal approved human territory. Only our teacher hates Roxy and her kids in there, so she also insisted that we had to make our own way back too, or we'd fail. You explain with a sigh. Oh, did she? Did she? Oh, she did she? Don't worry, you'll make it back, Terezi says, her eyes narrowing slightly. I'm sure we will. You agree uncertainly. You don't know if she's making a prediction or what. You're pretty sure that your friends wouldn't let Solix leave you here. Even if he did refuse to teleport you, there's always Dave's hellish skateboard. No, I'll take you. Now, you should get some sleep. I've had enough sleep for a while, Terezi insists and ushers you into the cave. Arguing with a dragon seems fantastically stupid. Even for you, so you shove your cards in your bag again, go inside the cave. Dave is already nestled up asleep with Solix perched on his legs. Neither of you make eye contact with each other. As you head in, June walks past you, and you hear her start to talk to Terezi, although she looks a little fed up as she does so. Well, whatever. You feel tired, but not sure you can sleep yet. Out of habit, you go to take your phone out of the charm on your wrist, but of course it's gone. You gave it to Terezi. Hey, Rose says sleepily, lifting her head up from Jade's shoulders. The two of them are slumped together against a wall. Hey, you say back quietly. I'll buy you a new phone. You handing it over did kind of save our lives, Rose says. You don't need to do that, you tell her, but just like the port tickets back at Salem, Rose won't hear any of it. Despite feeling tired, you don't feel like you can sleep. The idea that you'd be out of it and leaving your friends vulnerable just goes against everything you are. Or, bitterly, you correct yourself, your friends and Solux. You hate how much it hurts that he'd rather the way things are than anything you could do to improve it. Like you're not worth it. Yeah, it hurts. So you spend the time until the morning going through Terezi's library. You look at all the books and feel how happy they are to be read again. An awful lot of this stuff is way over your head, but the sections on how law applies to magic are at least somewhat interesting. You lose a good number of hours reading over how laws on stalking and surveillance without consent apply to seers and other methods of scrying. It seems to be legally murky. Seer visions are generally regarded as more or less just something that happens to a seer, and so they're not regarded as culpable. But using a crystal ball to deliberately spy on something or on someone is something else. It seems to be a balance between what information you're able to glean, how much interpretation that requires, and how in control of it you are. It's actually pretty interesting, and it takes your mind off things reasonably well. When morning comes around, your group heads outside the cave and sets up a fire, something that proves to be no problem with Terezi there. Thankfully, your cooking equipment had been packed in your bags before you all went to sleep, so you're all able to cook breakfast just fine. Your tent and sleeping bags, however, yeah, they're gone forever. Naturally, you offer Terezi some of your food, and she eats happily, although you bet it's nowhere near enough food for her. "Could you eat with your mouth shut?" June asks her irritably. "I can," Terezi says through a mouthful of half-chewed food, and then goes to the very obvious and pointed task of continuing to eat with her mouth open. You just politely avert your eyes. At least she's clothed now. "So, Terezi, what are you planning to do now that you're awake?" Rose asks, instead of commenting on Terezi's habits. "Flying around, see what's changed. Try to find out what year it is. Maybe check in with an old friend, find something to eat." Terezi shrugs and cracks a Red Bull open and knocks the whole thing back in one. "If you want, I could see about getting you a library card, or if you wanted to order books online, you could ship them to the university library, and I could hold on to them for you." "Aw, car cat, aren't you sweet?" Terezi cackles and slaps you on the back. It's like being smacked by a bear, and if you'd been sitting on anything but the ground, you'd have fallen off. As it is, you almost just fold in half and get all the air knocked out of you. She gets you right between the shoulder blades, and you're wheezing for breath for a second or two. Grateful you don't strictly need to breathe. You wish your lungs would get the message, though, because they're not happy. All your skin tingles with angry nerves where she hit you, and you must have gone some wires crossed because it feels like it itches, too. You shake the feeling off, and you all responsibly extinguish the campfire, for what good it'll do now, and get your things together. Terezi steps back a little, and you watch as she shifts from one form into another. It's the closest you can describe it is like watching a dog shake water off itself in slow motion, how all the fur and skin seems to shift as they move. Yet with her, it's a whole body unfolding out of some hidden space like a terrible giant scaled origami. In less than a second, Terezi's huge teal dragon form is standing there, and she curls her long tail around all of you. "Get on, nerds." Again, that voice is right in your head, but from how the others react, you think it's all in theirs too. June is the first one to climb on Terezi's tail. Her back is spiked in a way that reminds you of a stegosaurus, and as you follow after June, you wonder about the evolutionary path of dragons. Actually, Terezi's probably right. That was a nerdy thing to think. There's gaps between each of the spiked plates on Terezi's back, conveniently enough room for one of each person. You all end up in a little line with Jade behind you, and then the twins and Solux. You're a little bit behind Terezi's wings, so you have a perfect view of the ground as it moves away from you. Terezi's great wings beat, and you're pretty certain in an instant that though she needs them to fly, there's no way she's flying without some compromise between magic and physics, and yet it's completely natural. Jade gasps behind you, and you hear Rose and Dave both make noises that suggest they're not totally comfortable with flying at great heights through the air, unsecured, on the back of a living and unpredictable dragon. You watch as Forest and Road whip by below you. This feels completely different to hurtling through the air on Dave's skateboard. This feels nice. You lean over to see the ground better and delight in the way that the world slips by below you. It's not as if you're the only one who's okay with this. June is leaning forward on her spike plate with her eyes happily shut, and the wind pulling at her hair in a way that's almost dreamlike. Your feet slide up Terezi's flank and shift under so you can stand. The air whips around you as you stand up, completely comfortable. You can see faint dirt roads on the ground below you, and for an insane moment, you feel the compulsion to just jump. Isn't there a French word to describe that feeling? Where you're on top of something tall, like a building or a bridge, and the yawning emptiness below you calls you to just leap into it? With your left hand barely touching Terezi's spiked plate, you rack your brain. L'appel du vide. The call of the void. That's probably not how to pronounce it, but that's it. The proper road and buildings rush by you below, and you're forced to grab tighter hold on Terezi's spike plates when she curves to come into land at Salem University. You're still standing when Terezi lands on the ground outside Mindfang's classroom. Mindfang is actually there, and was presumably summoning people back. Now she's just staring wide-eyed as Trezzy turns her great head on her. The few students that were nearby have run screaming. Behind you, Rose gets up and jumps from Trezzy's back, landing in a crouch. She stands up, casually dusting herself off, and looks directly at Mindfang. I assume we passed, Rose says airily. Chapter done! Finished chapter! Wee woo! Another good chapter. Oh my goodness. My voice, I'm tired. We met Terezi. We met Jane. There's some shit going on. There were zombies. This is like the most D&D. This is the most Dungeons and Dragons-y chapter. We got undead people. We got literal dragon. We got kind of a it's not a dungeon, it's a cave. But good chapter. A fun one. We got a little bit of Solix and Carcat trying to figure shit out. Well, maybe not figure shit out right now, but they'll work towards it. They'll get there. But I'm a big fan of Terezi. Big fan of giant dragon Terezi. For people who don't know Terezi, because some of you guys don't know Homestuck. This is Terezi. Terezi, my absolute beloved. I love her so much. She's great. She's so lovely, and she's a rascal. But yeah, that is the end of the chapter. And I don't think I will be watching Last of Us, the most recent Last of Us episode with some friends soon, so I'm not going to stick around too long. But as a little note for tomorrow, important information. Tomorrow we will be doing the stream, but we will be doing it 3 hours earlier than we usually do it. So we will be going at 6 p.m. EST instead of 9 p.m. Only for tomorrow. I just have something to do later that night with some friends. And so I won't be able to do it that late. But so stream is moving up earlier, 3 hours earlier, 6 p.m. EST. We will be doing tomorrow, and that we will be doing the chapter. Oh my god, I scrolled all the way down the comments. We will be doing chapter 15. 15, Past Lives. That is tomorrow, 6 p.m. EST. So yeah. That is pretty much all for me. That is all for me today. And yeah, I hope you guys all have a lovely night. I'm not sure if I'll make it, but I will watch the VOD. I will make sure to upload the VOD. It'll be both on Twitch published, but I'll also see how I'm gonna try to quickly get it. I'm trying to make sure I upload things to the YouTube channel for not right away, but like maybe like by the time I can do it in the next morning. So I export it tonight, and the next morning I'll publish it. So so tomorrow's VOD will be live the next morning on the YouTube channel. So, or you can just find it on Twitch if it's not on the YouTube channel yet. I'm so excited for tomorrow's. Tomorrow's is a good chapter. I am very excited for tomorrow's. I am very, very excited for tomorrow's chapter. I think these next 3 chapters are like bangers back to back to back. I am very excited. The rest of this week, we have some really good chapters. I'm very excited. I'm particularly excited about 16, which will be what? Thursday? But all the next chapters are really fucking good. Oh, I'm so excited. I'm so excited. So yeah, okay. That is all for today. I hope you all have a lovely, 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 lovely night. Speculation about species. Carcat definitely has wings. Ooh. Interesting. Interesting speculation. What makes you say that? I'm curious. Was it the whole thing at the end with him like wanting to jump off? Oh, the emphasis on the itch on the back. Oh, that is an interesting point. Yeah. All right. We will go more tomorrow. We will do more tomorrow. So I hope you all have a lovely, lovely, lovely night, as usual. And I will talk to you all tomorrow night, 6 p.m. EST. Be there. Chapter 15. Fucking great chapter. All right. Good night, everybody. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.